don't stop the music. Please don't stop the music.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. In this episode, we are going to be talking to you about what do you want? Our most downloaded episode series ever. And we've given you some, and we're going to give you some more. So we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. It is I, your humble servant, Quincy Moran, being corrected in the Moran family studio by my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. What's going on?
Not much.
Uh-oh.
Everything. Lots.
Yeah, that's true. Now, look, I can't hear you, so let's give this just a moment. Try that again.
Try what again?
Perfect. What's going on, Jeannie Moran?
Lots of stuff.
There is lots of stuff. Before we get started, I never really want to date the program, but we're on the front side of the Christmas season. Christmas is in a few days, so Merry Christmas to everybody. And for those of you tuning into the program, Jeannie corrected me quite masterfully, because this is not a what do you want series. This is a where do I start series. So where do I start with you in making that right? We'll start right here. I want to begin the program, number one, by saying, remember the email address. We're here to support you. For those of you using the email address, thank you for trusting us. Thank you for letting down the wall in order to take a chance in communicating with two people that you do not know in order to make you better and to make your relationship better. And so we decided, for a couple of reasons, to do some live stuff tonight. Number one, because we were gone last week and I was going to pre-record an episode, and I thought, why don't I just do it live? We get some listeners that jump on here. You can put comments in, unless you're watching on X. If you're watching on X, please, repost this so that we grow the viewership. But you can put some comments in as we go along. But the most downloaded series in the 7 years that we have had is Where Do I Start? People want to know, look, you get married, you do what you see, and then you go, what the heck is going on with my life and my relationship? Maybe there have been things that life has thrown at you that you did not see coming. Everything is not sunshine and rainbows, as Rocky Balboa said. So what happens when things change? You get started with this idea in mind that you're going to have a great marriage. Things are going to be fantastic. You're going to have this great connection. You're going to communicate all the time. You're going to do better than your parents did. And like Lee Corso would say on College Game Day before he retired, not so fast, my friends. And here's what I would tell you as you listen on. Here's what I would tell you is I would say you're not alone. You're in the right place. And that's because the beautiful woman on this podcast with me, we started 16 years ago after being married for 10 years, having 8 kids, and having significant amounts of adversity come our way. We took a step back. We were in full survival mode, and we said, hey, this is not what we signed up for. So we have some choices to make. Fast forward 16 years later, do we still have problems? Of course we do. We're human beings. We still have problems. But are we better connected now than we've ever been? I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Are we communicating?
Problems aren't as big anymore either. They're a little more easily resolved.
Yeah, that's because we didn't ask for things to get easier. We were intentional about building our skill set to get better. And so before you get married, there's really nothing. There are things you can do to get prepared, but there's not necessarily things that are going to help you overcome everything, because you have to have the fundamental experience of being married. You have to have the fundamental experience of realizing how selfish you are as a human being and saying, oh, wow, maybe I need to consider the other person. You need the fundamental exercise of miscommunicating with your spouse and learning how do you clean that up. You need the fundamental experience of having silent expectations and things just getting very difficult in your relationship, so you can learn how to resolve before some of those things make sense to you. It's just like this. I only had one perspective on raising kids until I became a parent.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh man,
Audibles, lots of audibles.
they're so right. And then after my kids became teenagers and grew into young adults,
Even more audibles.
I said, holy cow. And then I would call my mom and dad and say,
Sorry.
I'm very sorry. Hello, listener that I can't pronounce that name, but hello. And thanks for commenting on the program. It's great to have you here. Now, as we get into this episode, there's something that I really want to do. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys that are listening, period. Whether you listen via Apple Podcast, you go on and you check out our YouTube channel, which I'm struggling to grow, just to be very transparent. Probably because I waited for 7 years to do it for real. And so I have to have the fundamental experience on what that feels like. But I got something recently from Spotify, and it blew my mind. And so I want to show you guys as our audience what Spotify showed us, because there can be times where you're doing a podcast and you just don't know if you're helping anybody. Like, we know, what do we know when we do a podcast, honey? What is it for us?
It's therapy for us.
That's
So
right.
Whether somebody listens to it or not, I mean, I'm glad they do, but either way, we're still working through our stuff. So
Well, it matters to me. If people are listening, I'm doing this as a pay it forward. I'm doing it because I feel called to do so. I feel compelled to do so. But what Spotify sent me yesterday, I'm very excited to show you guys. Now, I'm going to put this up on stage. Jeannie, when the studio is done, you'll be able to see all this stuff, and it'll be really cool because you'll see what I'm looking at. But right now,
I'm watching it live. I can see it right now.
oh, thanks.
I have it live so I can see the comments in case you miss them.
Thank you very much, my dear. So the number one episode of 2025 and really all time is episode 1. Where do I start? Taking personal responsibility. That episode was done 7 years ago, and people still go back to the beginning to figure out, where do I start? And so that is what brought this series about, and how we started to break it down for you so that we give you a comprehensive play-by-play. We give you fundamentals. We give you things, the tangible things that you can do. And so I'll break that down for you in just a moment. Here's something else that's really cool. For the year of 2025, Spotify said that our listening time went up 54% in the United States of America. That is great. People are listening to the program 54% more. 25 people on Spotify, we are their top show. That is very humbling. 31%, we our followers increased 31%. So again, that's humbling, because sometimes you just don't know. You can see the downloads. It's hard to know how much of the information that people are consuming and if they're putting it into practice unless they email. The next thing is, like I showed you, the number one show for 25 fans on Spotify. So thank you guys very much for listening. And I pray that you're applying it. Look at this, the 2025 growth. Your total audience went up 87%. Your total new audience went up by 1,000%. And your listening time to each episode has gone up by 54%. So people are listening, more people are consuming, we're getting more listeners, and they're listening to it, listening to more and more of the program. So thanks be to God. I am so appreciative of that. Now, the next couple things for you guys that are on Spotify and everybody else. Like I said, thank you for listening. I only know how to quantify this. I don't know if Apple does it or not, but I will look and then I will praise you guys. What?
Nothing.
So for Spotify, it says we are a 2025 rising star. What does that mean? I had no idea. This year, your show's growth outpaced 79% of other shows. It blows me away. Next, a 2025 marathon show. Fans listen to you for longer than 88% of other shows. Thank you guys on Spotify. If you listen on Spotify, if you are one of the listeners on Spotify, thank you very much for helping us broaden the platform. Email me so I can thank you personally. I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to add you to a list without your permission. None of that. But I would love to thank you personally for what you're doing, because you're doing what I'm asking you to do. I presume that other people are as well. I just don't have a way to quantify that. So thank you very much. Please rate the show. Put a review in there, an honest review of how we're helping you, because that encourages other people to give this thing a shot too. All too often, we feel like we're alone in what we're going through. Jeannie and I are here to say, no, you're not. And we put our life and our relationship on display. And that takes a lot of guts. Finally, this too blew my mind on Spotify. A 2025 most shared show. You received more than 89% shares than other shows. Now, do I have this on to self-aggrandize? Nope, I don't. I have it on to say thank you, because I had no idea you guys were doing this on our behalf on Spotify. And so I am deeply humbled. I greatly appreciate you sharing the show. You're making us a rising star. And look, we don't do sponsors. I'm not saying we never will, but we don't do sponsors. Every single dime that it takes to fund this program comes out of our family's pocket. And it's a labor of love. It is a passion project, and we're working on making it a proper platform. But as you hear on the program, we got a few things going on. So, this next 12 to 14 months, as Jeannie and I have talked about it, she's deemed it our year to learn. So I'm endeavoring to get better at what I do.
There's a lot of new happening. So I just don't see how we could. I just don't see how we can move without learning. Everything that we've got coming up is going to be a learning experience.
It really is. It really is. And I'm committed to getting better, to getting more effective at presenting the message without so many words, because I love to talk. And that is in preparation for coming to your city, and having a small, intimate setting with Jeannie and I and a group of people that want to learn one-on-one about relationships and in marriage, and how we, ask questions, where this, small trusted group of people won't go and talk about your business. And as a matter of fact, just before we get into the show now, when you email me, it comes directly to me. I don't have an assistant. It comes to me. And so when I get your email, I will share it with Jeannie, unless you tell me not to. And then I count it as sacred. It is sacred to me. So I'm not going to publicize your business. What I will do is I will email you back whatever you're telling me. I'll email you back, give you some conversation material, some things to think about, and then we will start the conversation from there. And there are times where listeners really want to take advantage of what we call standing outside the frame. And what does that mean? That means you send us your story. Jeannie and I read it aloud. You're anonymous. You're Jack. Your wife is Jill. And then we talk about the situation out loud. It's like getting a perspective on someone else's challenges, helps you detach from the emotion, and then gives you the ability to look at it with a fresh set of eyeballs. And you can actually start to see once you pull the emotion away, here's what I should do. Because if your friend comes to you and has problems, trust me, you believe you know how to fix them. It all seems so easy whenever it's not your problem. So that's it. Now, in this episode, we are talking about where do I start? And here's the big deal. What we did is we gave you, I think right now we are sitting at 6 or 7 episodes with nuances. And here's the thing I want to challenge you with. If I seem intense, it's because I am. I want to challenge you with this, listener. If you think you've heard these episodes enough, if you think you've heard this material enough, I usually don't say this to people, but I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. You have not heard it enough. If you think you already know all of this because you heard it 2 or 3 times and you put it into practice, I'm going to say it again, you're wrong. And how can I say that? Because I have lived this. Jeannie has lived this. And so while it is our goal to help you speed past some of the issues that we had based on what our experience is, so we can kind of give you the shortcut, we give you the playbook, these are things that you need to have written on your heart. Much like what happened as the show was getting ready to begin, I asked Jeannie, focus on what you can affect. What are the things you can affect? And she didn't know. But here's the thing, that I've been living that.
I know. I just want to memorize like you do.
I've been living that for a decade. And I've had to utilize that information. I've had to utilize that framework to coach myself through very difficult times. So that is what we're talking about here. It's like the Gandalf the Grey moment. It's like thus far and no more. This now becomes a part of my operating system. So when you are faced with adversity, you can say, Quincy, focus on what you can affect. What are those things? As you coach yourself, okay, I can focus on this. So there's no shortcuts to this. This transformation requires reps. It requires you doing it. And then it requires that whenever life comes along, to gift you the opportunity to see where you stand in the process. If you pass or if you fail, you've been located. You know where you are. And just because you pass on the first try doesn't mean when the second try comes around, you're going to pass again. So it needs to become a part of you. I fail. Jeannie fails. It's a part of it. Now, what does it mean when we say focus on what you can affect? That was a part of episode 1 in this new series. What does it mean, honey?
Your attitude, your effort, your action, and your intentions.
That's right. And so your attitude, your effort, and your actions. It was limited to those 3 things for me. Jeannie was actually the one that added the 4th one, which is big for us, which is your intentions. Those are the things that you can affect. Those are within your control, the healthy things that you can control. Okay. So in episode 1, the idea was for us to help locate you on the map. If you're going somewhere, if you're setting out to go to a destination, you have to know where you are starting. Like when you get on the GPS, it may say, start from what location? Start from your current location, and then you might have to plug it in. So we need to get your address. Where are you? When there's a 911 emergency, if you've never had the pleasure of calling them, which is not a pleasure, not because they're bad people, because it's a serious situation. They say, 911, what's your emergency? You tell them, they're going to say, where are you? And so in this adventure we call life, it is our goal to challenge you to become someone. Because who you are is not who you have to be. And it's likely that since you have found this program, who you are is not who you want to be. Now, you may have the point of view that all of your problems are your spouse. So who your spouse is not who you want them to be. But trust me when I say you are a part of the problem. How do I know? Because I'm not only the vice president, I'm also a client. That's how I know. Now, honey, anything that you want to talk about or you want to add color to for where we've been thus far, all the key points, you've got the notes there. Anything that you want to talk about there?
No, I think you're doing all right so far.
Okay. So one of the goals that we put in, and we gave you homework in those episodes. If you haven't listened to them, I strongly encourage you to go back and to listen to them. They're on YouTube. Keep in mind, I've not done a great job. This is me being self-conscious. I've not done a good job of building YouTube. But go and check them out there if you're not a fan of audio podcast. If you are, Apple, Spotify, etc. One of those things is I wanted you to observe your behavior when the pressure shows up, because it's important to understand who you are when there is pressure, because we don't identify where the challenges are when things are going well. So I want you to remember that. Now, one of the other things we did was because we started out with like, what do you want? We're going to locate you. We give you homework, and the homework helps you drive forward. We put gratitude exercises in there because you're going to be thinking about some very difficult things. So I wanted you to remember that gratitude is a part of this. The next thing is like, who do you want to be? Who do you as a human being want to be? I had my own reckoning with that when I was getting healthy, finally starting to get healthy. I was at the gym. I was working out. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy said, hey, this happened to me. And he talked about the funeral experience. I'll cover it briefly. So in the funeral experience, what you do is you fast forward to your death, even though it sounds morbid. You fast forward there, you're laying in the box, your family, the people that matter to you, whether it's friends or family, they are standing one by one. They are going and they're saying, Quincy was this. He meant this to me. He made this impact on my life. And the question is, what do you want those people to say about you? The people that matter. What impact do you want to make on their life? So I had to think about that. I started thinking about some things. And he said, after I did that, I came back to the present day and I said, is the way I'm living my life now, does it have me on the pathway to get there? And I had to be honest with myself and say, no. And my friend Pete, out in California, he said one time, you got to be one of the funnest dads in the world. And I thought to myself, and I thought, I'm not a fun dad. And it bothered me. So I had to look in the mirror. I had to observe my behavior. I had to say, am I someone that I would be proud of? Am I someone that I admire, that I respect? Am I somebody that I can trust? And the answer was no. Was I showing up for my wife and my family? The answer was no. So I had some changes to make. So after you decide, and this is like the episodes are very methodical. After you decide who is it you want to be, the next thing we challenged you with was, what do you want? Why is that such a big deal? Because Jeannie and I have had a hard time in the past figuring that out. Because if you don't know what you want, how are you going to achieve it? Mm-hmm. And there were things for me in this notebook that I wanted. Just simply, the first thing I put on the notebook from the notes, I don't even have them in front of me, is I wanted some emotional control over my life. Now we have this really trendy word called triggered. I allowed people to trigger me in the past, to get into my emotions. I had no control over them. And so I acted out. I could be very happy and outgoing minute 1, minute 2. I could be a raging Irish lunatic. I did not like having people having control over me there. And so it's important to know, who do you want to be? I've had listeners, I say, hey, think of a man that you admire. What are those attributes? Apparently, I'm fortunate because I had some male role models in my life that were in their better stages of life that I admired. And so I talked about them. And one of the particular listeners was like, I don't have a man in my life that I admire. So then we had to game plan and say, well, what would you admire? Because those are the things that you want to be. That's what you want to represent. And then the next thing is, listen, after you've determined these things, there is a question that's going to lead us down the road. There's a fork in the road right now. And honey, you see the next bullet point, the second from the last. I'm going to ask you to talk about that bullet point and why it's important.
Are you all in?
Yeah.
Ooh, why is that important? Well, because if you're not all in, you're going to take shortcuts. You're not going to finish the homework. You're not going to finish the job. You're not going to finish whatever it is that you're trying to get to. You're going to be one of those people that I'm going to start on Monday and I'm going to get to Wednesday, and on Wednesday I'm going to mess up a little bit, and I'm going to decide, well, maybe I don't have to do that part of it. Maybe I only have to do this part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that part's a little bit too hard. I don't think I want to do that. So I'm gonna adjust it, and I'm gonna take out this part, and I'm only gonna work on this. And then you're gonna go a few more days, and then something else hard is gonna come up, and you're gonna decide, yeah, I don't like that either. So I think I'm gonna skip that. The next thing you know, you're gonna take 10 things that you're supposed to be doing consistently to get better, and you're going to be dwindled down to maybe 1 or 2. And those 1 or 2 by themselves are not going to be enough to make the impact and the change that you're actually wanting to get to.
That's right.
You're going to cut yourself short, and then you're going to quit, because if you're not all in, why would anybody else be all in? If we're supposed to be doing this together and you're not all in, why am I going to do it?
Yep.
Why would I put the effort in? I'm not going to do all the work for 2 people. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's well said. If you're not all in, when you begin to swim upstream and stop going with the flow and being comfortable, you're going to meet resistance. And if you're not all in, you're going to quit.
Well, and you need to ask yourself, if you're not all in, why? Why are you not all in?
Yeah.
Because in our experience, some people are not all in because, well, it's not my problem to fix. It's the other person's problem. I only have to do X, Y, Z. They need to do A through F. Well, that might be what you perceive. But if you're talking about a marriage, you're both responsible for all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even let's say you've been wronged. The other person is responsible for, apologizing and trying to make things right, but you're still responsible for the forgiveness side. They can apologize, but if you haven't let go and sincerely forgiven and allowed the process of healing to take place, the apology means nothing. The apology is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, we're both responsible for all parts, even the stuff that wasn't necessarily your fault. You still have a responsibility in it.
Yeah. It's important that you know that. Because I'll tell you this, if you're not all in, when nobody's looking, you're not going to do what's right.
Oh, hell no.
If you're not all in, when the going gets tough, you will be a quitter. If you're not all in, when your spouse has a low moment, a low character moment, or treats you the way that he or she used to, then you will justify why you act the way you do and allow your circumstances to win, as opposed to following through and focusing on what you can affect.
Or you're going to be constantly restarting. Well, that was a bad day today. I'll just restart tomorrow. Okay, cool. So you restart tomorrow, and then you run up against the same problem. But because you're not all in and willing to face the problem or face the challenge or make the new decision, do the next right thing, you're going to restart again tomorrow.
Correct. So it's important to know if you're all in. And the next episode we did after that is, how long is this going to take?
Oof, I hate that question.
Well, I can't say I've never asked that question, but like I said earlier, there's no shortcuts. And in this endeavor, I'm not sure what your vows were, but I am hopeful that it mentioned as long as we both shall live or something close to that. And so the fact is you have the rest of your life to connect on these issues. Not that you're going to wait for that long for it to work, but you're in this for the long game. You're in this for the totality of your relationship. And I used to ask this question all the time. We had a show opener that had me talking on. It's like, how good do you want your life to be? How good do you want your marriage to be? Because you guys can decide that. It's going to take intention. It's going to take work. It's going to mean you have to be all in. And then when you look at the timeline,
It
You
takes
must-
what it takes.
it takes exactly what it takes so well. And that's a great book, by the way. The next thing is that I expanded rather, on personal responsibility. I did a solo episode talking about personal responsibility and then talking to you about the 5R principle. Wish I had a better name for it. I just don't. Maybe I'll get more creative someday. Honey, do you know what the 5 R's are?
Not off the top of my head, no.
That's okay. I know them because they're in my heart. Number one, you want to be very, very resourceful. And in that program, I put together what being resourceful is all about. And I'll cover that for you here real quick. So we'll start at the top. The 5R principle, reliable. What does that mean? Being reliable, be dependable, consistent, and trustworthy in word and action, doing what you said you would do, especially when it's inconvenient. Oh, that's a lost art. Number two, be resourceful, the ability to find solutions instead of excuses. Using what you have, where you are, to move forward rather than waiting for ideal conditions. That's part of what Jeannie said earlier. I'll wait until Monday. Procrastination. Be resilient. This is something that is lacking in today's culture, in society. The capacity to endure difficulty. I'm not saying endure punishment. I'm saying endure difficulty. Recover from setbacks and continue forward without quitting when pressure, conflict, and fatigue show up. This year, I added a number 5R. It used to be the 4R principle. And this was an upgrade. And I thank God, I truly thank the Holy Spirit when he puts these things in my soul. And the 5th R is to be remarkable. Listen to this defining word, being remarkable. Living in a way that stands out because of character, discipline, and ownership. Not perfection, but consistency that leaves a visible impact. I feel like these words, to a high degree, describe me well. If you disagree, please say so.
I don't.
Okay. Do you agree? Please say.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything you want to say there?
No, I mean, you do what you do to the best of your ability and you do it with intention. That's what makes it remarkable.
Well, thank you. So that's where we ended on the personal responsibility. And that was the reason for this show. And look, here's something that I came to find out. I was under the misconception that when mine and Jeannie's relationship improved, I thought to myself, who in the world, who wouldn't want their relationship to improve like we have? Like, I've got to get this out into the ethos. People need to know that when your home life and your relationship gets centered, it gets stable, it starts to grow, it's thriving, great things happen around you because you go out and you approach your life in the same fashion. It's not trendy. Talking about marriage isn't trendy.
Oh no, nobody wants to know. Nobody wants you to know what their dirty laundry is.
Talking about marriage is nowhere near as exciting as politics. Nowhere near as exciting as throwing hate at, Democrats and Republicans. It's nowhere near as cool as sports. and screaming about this team and that team. And I like sports, and I'm interested in politics. But neither one of those have changed my life, like becoming the man that I want to be, becoming the husband I want to be, becoming the father I want to be, and leading this family. Nothing. Not even as big of an Alabama fan as I am. It hasn't changed my life and my reality like this has. Politics hasn't either. I've paid more taxes and less taxes. I've seen politicians lie and politicians lie. It does have an impact on my life, but it hasn't changed my life like this has changed my life. It's not the trendy pick. People aren't always interested in taking responsibility for who they are and what they've become. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I'm saying, are you happy with who you are? Like Dr. Phil, my cousin Shane taught me, well, this is what I have. And Dr. Phil says, well, how's that working for you? It's a great question. That is a great question. Because if you find yourself and you're not satisfied with where you are, it's not working for you. And guess what? You and your relationship and your life, it can work for you. Is it easy? I don't care if it's easy. Because the value of it, the value and the outcome and the transformation are way worth whether it's easy or not. That's the wrong question. So now that you know that, and I'm going to ask you, go back and get these episodes. Now that you know that, here's the next piece. This is the next level of where we're going and where do I start? We're going to call it the execution layer. And it's going to be interesting how this plays out. But leadership, as a man, as a husband, as a man of faith, how do I tell my family that I am the leader? Here's an indicator. If you find yourself telling your family you over and over again that you're the leader, you're not the leader. But we can help you with that. Leading someone or someone submitting or being in service to you requires a significant amount of trust. Gina and I were just on a getaway, and she kept reinforcing how much that she trusts me over and over again. But that's because I've provided her with actions and behaviors. Hey, could you not kick that camera? I don't trust you anymore.
Sorry.
I provided her with action and behaviors and a track record that allows her to put her trust in me. See, trust is an action. It's something that's earned. I don't just go to her like many people do to their spouse or whatever and say, well, the Bible says I'm the leader, so you have to follow me. No.
No.
Now, there are some people who, or some women or whatever, that might say, oh, sure, I'll follow you. But their heart is not following.
Not without proof.
And that matters. So we'll talk about daily leadership under the roof. We'll talk about presence and performance. We'll talk about tone, consistency, and reliability. But you got to do work. You have to put the work in on you to become someone that you trust, or asking your spouse to trust you is hypocrisy. Defining the day. What does success look like? I'm learning that. I'm learning the value. Jeannie and I listened to an episode yesterday with Andy Frisella talking about the value of winning every day. How do you measure that? What does it look like? Some of the keys to emotional control. We've talked a little bit about that, but I want to expand on that. I want to provide you a book that will help you, that will help give you some guidelines. It was written and articulated beautifully. Then we're going to talk about the goal being excellence and not perfection. What's the difference in those two things? In my mind, one of those is achievable. One of those is not. So the next thing we'll talk about after that is, how do you do this? How do you get started when nobody recognizes the work that you're putting in? How do you continue to work? How do you continue to transform yourself? How do you continue to follow the process when you're not getting an attaboy? And why is that important? And I'm here to tell you, it is deeply important that you're willing and that you are going all in. Because here's the deal. I'll just tell you, if you have success somewhere in your life, then you can duplicate that. What you need is a structure. What you need is a process. You need a way to walk that out. And that's what we help you with. How do we know how to do that? Because we have tried and we have failed and we've come back to the drawing board. We've tried again. We've succeeded. And then we start to duplicate that success. Success can cause you to get better. It can cause you to sharpen your skills and push harder in order to grow, or it can cause you to get complacent and regress. So that's something you need to know. Because there are many times, Jeannie and I have all these tools, and here we are, bebopping around, not using them. Not because they're not important, but because we're distracted and we're not using them. They weren't written on our heart. So what helped us get back to balance? It was the tools. And now we have a tool in our relationship that has completely changed our relationship for the better after 26 years of marriage.
It just took us a little bit of practice, a few years, that's all.
It did. But the beauty is that we are putting in the work so that our listeners can learn from us. The Nick Saban quote, good people learn from their mistakes, great people learn from other people's mistakes. So we can give you some acceleration here, but nothing substitutes doing the work. So yes, marriage and this development process is not trendy like politics and sports and food blogs and all these other things. But I'm going to tell you that you will find no greater value in your life aside from building your faith walk, which must be incorporated into this. Nothing will add value to your life and the experience that you're having in this life than what it is that we're providing you. And right now we're getting close to 400 episodes of a podcast. By God's grace, we have not missed 1 week dumping an episode in over 7 years. Why is that? Because that was my commitment. My commitment was for 7 years to not miss an episode. And I don't have it in me not to do it again and again. So that's all. Your final thoughts, honey. I would love to hear them if you have any. I did a lot of talking in this episode. I wanted to go pretty methodically. I wanted your thoughts on some of the nuances that people need to hear about. But what thoughts do you have? Anything you want to talk about to wrap this up? So the listeners know what it looks like.
I don't really have a what it looks like because it's different for everybody. I can tell you part of what it will look like is difficult. Part of it will look like overwhelming. Part of it will look like it's a lot of work. Some of it will look like it might be too hard. It might be too much. But the other side of that is much like in our situation, you have somebody to help. Mm-hmm. You have somebody that will be in your corner, that will walk through it, that will let you process through what it actually looks like and ask questions. If it hadn't been for Rita, asking me questions that no one else, one, no one else ever had the authority to ask. Two, I wouldn't have let anybody ask.
I think 1 and 2 are the same, but understood.
No, she didn't. She's the only person who had permission.
Mhm.
But the way she did it, the way she asked me questions, the way she made me think about things was very different. And I think it's because she went through something herself with her marriage, which gave her the experience to know how to walk us through our situation, which is where we find ourselves. We've been through some things that most people wouldn't know. You know, most of our family doesn't even know. Our kids are still asking questions, trying to figure things out because they only know a chunk of what they've heard or what they've seen. They don't actually know what was behind the scenes until we talk about it. But it took a third person to help us get down to the root of some of those things. If that's where you're at and you're wanting to change and you're wanting to do something different and you need somebody to help, that's what we do.
That is what we do, and we are happy to do it. So that's a look ahead to what you'll see after Christmas. And then the goal next year, as we talked about earlier, the goal is for us to continue to learn to get better at communicating these things in our life and how we can help you. And then I want to bring more experts to the program that aren't journey driven, but they are experts, and they have a very niche focus on helping couples do various things. We've had some of them on the program before. We have a lot of people reaching out that want to be a part of the program. And so I do my best to vet them. Some of them, I'm going to bring them on. I'm going to let you decide for yourself. If I hear anything that I'm not down with, then we'll talk about it on the show. But I want you to hear what these people have to say. For the most part, we want to bring people on that are trusted, that we respect, and that we think will add value to your life. That is why we're here, to add value to your life and your journey. Otherwise, what the heck are we doing here? So I'm excited about that. I want to thank you once again for listening, for sharing the show. I got to tell you, it blew me away to watch that Wrapped Spotify presentation that they sent over, and just knowing that you guys are out there working on our behalf. Thank you so much. Feel free to email me at quincy@mvsmpodcast.com. And like I say, I will thank you personally. I'll thank you personally for sharing this show and helping us broaden the platform in an effort to be a positive impact for people who are married, people who want to transform their life, and they don't know how to do it. We are here to help you. We're two people who have done this by the grace of God. It's 16 years in the making. And I'm very, very grateful for all the things that we've been through, because it has equipped us to do what God is calling us to do, and that's to help you, the listener. And that, my friends, is it. That is all for now. Honey, you got a final word?
Nope.
Well, that's a heck of a final word. All right. I guess mine will be yep, just so I can be opposite you there.
Difficult.
Yes, I love to be difficult at difficult moments. Just kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this episode of Man versus Marriage. I'm so thankful that you're here, that you watched. Let us know how we can help you. Oh, man, I've done the whole show, this microphone blocking half of my face. You're welcome. Anyway, that's it. For Jeannie Moran, I am Quincy Moran, and this is Man versus Marriage, the podcast.